Good morning to you. I am Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. Time for my hurricane outlook and discussion and what's up in the Tropics segment, all bundled up into one. It is Thursday, the 22nd of September, 2022, and we have a lot to talk about. I'm only going to do one video today because I am on the road trying to get up to Nova Scotia. Got a new plan on how to do that, so I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. But the tropics are very busy. We have Category 4 Fiona still. Obviously a very big concern. Keep waiting for the housekeepers to knock on the door. It's not even close to checkout time, but you never know. So Fiona, and then of course 98L in the southeastern Caribbean. Very big concern with what that's going to end up doing. And then we have Gaston and a couple other features out there in the Atlantic that are of very little consequence overall compared to what we're dealing with in the Western Atlantic. So let's drop me out. Go to the True Color satellite animation here. Look how large Fiona is, just a huge circulation. This is going to be putting out swells all over the Atlantic for the next several days, so please pay attention to that if you are along the eastern seaboard and the north-facing beaches of the Caribbean islands. Those swells could lead to some life-threatening problems if you're not careful. Those are impacts. And then we have 98L down here. Definitely rotation there. This has got a lot of energy, a lot of vigor, as we say. And as soon as this gets into a more favorable environment, the outflow from Fiona is still kind of choking this off a little bit, preventing it from doing its full thing to rev up its engine. And that's what these are. These are heat engines. And this one, 98L, is going to go once it gets into the central and western Caribbean. Here's Gaston. We'll put a G up there for that. Another couple of tropical waves that really won't be too much of a concern as they get out over the Atlantic. By the way, look at that. This one pushed off some dust with it. Another very small Saharan air layer outbreak. Kind of odd to see towards the end of September, but it's been an odd season, so why stop now? Vorticity signature mainly wanting to show you 98L. A good deal of the energy is over South America, believe it or not. But once this gets out more over the water, and heads into this direction, I think this is going to come together pretty quickly, and it could be a significant hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. This energy right here, this vorticity, is what is keeping Fiona from coming into the southeast United States. That's not going to happen. This is going to help to scoop Fiona up and actually turn it right into Nova Scotia. And I've got a great animation movie to show you from Philippe Papin at the National Hurricane Center in just a few minutes. Really remarkable infographic animation that he has put together. All right, Fiona looking a little bit ragged today, but don't let that fool you. There is tremendous energy out here, and it's spreading out over a larger area. Bermuda going to be in line for the potential of some tropical storm, maybe hurricane conditions. This is our track map. Don't want to ignore the East Pacific entirely. We do have a new tropical storm out here in Newton, but it's going to go away from Mexico, so no concerns there for direct impacts. All right, so at the closest approach to Bermuda, we have our little arrow here that we can use. Yeah, let's say something like this, a little over 100 miles from the center. But remember, it's not a little 3 on a map, well, a little circle with a 3 in it. This picture here shows you how big Fiona is, so the possibility for hurricane conditions cannot be ruled out. There's a hurricane watch and tropical storm warning for Bermuda, and the seas out here are just going to be incredible. We should see some interesting videos coming out of there over the next day or so. This will pass by, it looks like, late tonight, so about 2 a.m. Eastern time to 3 a.m. That window, overnight hours, it'll be the closest to Bermuda. Then it gets captured. What does that mean? I'll show you that in just a moment. And it heads up into Atlantic Canada, possibly passing over the eastern parts of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, Sydney over here. Just a very, very rough situation coming up for our friends in Atlantic Canada. That includes western Newfoundland, a good deal of the eastern parts of Nova Scotia, any shipping interest up here. I mean, the Canadians know. They got the Environment Canada, the Canadian Hurricane Center. Yes, there is such a thing. They're on top of this, but it's going to be a historic event potentially. I mean, we never know until it's over because history is in the past, right? But seriously, and let me talk about my plans for that real quick. So I want to try to get this video going get it done, get it online, and move on and get ready for this. I am in Dulles, Virginia, Chantilly area now. My colleague and one of our Patreon supporters, Matt, is in the air right now flying into Dulles. We're going to meet up, and then we're going to go to Philadelphia. I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow morning and be in Halifax, Nova Scotia tomorrow afternoon. I will take what equipment I can, and I'm going to rent a vehicle. I already got that set up. And then I'm going to drive out and handle the Fiona situation by myself. Now, I say by myself, there have been so many people on social media already offering their support and help and advice. I'll tap into that resource and make do as best I can. And then I will fly back on Sunday out of Halifax, or Monday at the latest, to wherever I need to be with that equipment. Matt will still have the Tacoma. We have a Toyota Tacoma now that was crowdfunded through our Patreon. Thank you all very much. And we can get down to Florida or wherever we need to be. Florida looks likely. And we can cover both storms, both situations, hurricanes, at once, basically. So there's the plan. I'll be in Halifax if all goes well tomorrow afternoon. And for good reason, because this really is going to be impactful up in that area. Real quick again, morning update, 8 a.m. intermediate advisory, 130, still very powerful, and it's going to spread out that energy. Information for Canada here, looking at storm surge, huge waves, 22 to 32 feet, maybe higher. That's ridiculous. Possible hurricane force winds all up in this area here and into western parts of Newfoundland. Massive trees down over a huge area, power outages. Really, really going to be a big impact storm. This is going to make world news. It really will. International news, because this is going to be a significant event, potentially setting a record low air pressure at the surface there for Canada. And I am bringing at least one, I think I'm bringing 2 or 3 pressure sensors with me, and we will be able to measure that right at sea level. Hugely important. I will be talking with Dr. Phil Klotzbach about that. Pressure is a measurement of hurricanes that you just, if you do it right, it is infallible. Wind data is much harder, much harder. Your instrumentation has to be perfect. You have to sight it correctly. With the pressure sensors, you just have to calibrate them. And, as long as they're decent, we use Kestrels. We should be able to get some excellent readings out there over a fairly wide area. So that's the impacts. And then, of course, flooding rains, because Fiona's going to slow down as it comes up there because it's getting captured by this trough. I'll show you that in just a moment. Another reason it is going to be so strong, water temperatures are running well above normal up here, all over the western Atlantic. There's one little cold wake there from some of our recent activity. But yeah, it's got a lot of extra warm water to work with. Now, the waters are not 80 degrees. Don't mistake this for red means warm. These are departures from the long-term average over the last week or so. This is from the National Hurricane Center's Dr. Richard Reynolds method. It's called the Reynolds Weekly Sea Surface Temperature Map. So it's an average over the past week. So they are averaging more than 1 degree Celsius, close to 2 to 3, all up in the area where Fiona will be coming in. And just to make mention, all of the area where 98L will be traversing, a half to 1 degree Celsius above the long-term average as well. So a very warm western Atlantic, to be sure. Okay, so here's this Philippe Papin tweet, if I can say it. And this is really incredible. Fiona's upcoming extratropical transition. It's going to lose the warm core structure. It's going to phase, or actually be captured by this trough. So let's look at his movie here. We're going to go full screen, and I can pause it here. The stage is set for a very dynamic extratropical transition of Fiona over the Canadian Maritimes. Watch this upper level trough. Fiona comes up. There comes that trough energy right there. I can stop this and show you myself. I like that. That's pretty cool. Let's use blue just to help highlight this. There's the upper level trough energy sweeping in. There's Fiona. And as he says, the upper level trough starts to amplify, and its wavelength shortens as it encounters outflow from Fiona that impedes it's forward motion. So everything's kind of getting jammed up, and these two physical entities are going to run into each other, and that creates an incredible setup meteorologically. It's not so incredible for the people that are going to be on the ground up there. So as you see what happens here, as the upper level trough approaches Fiona, it begins to initiate the extratropical transition as baroclinicity, that is difference in temperature over distance, temperature gradient, increases. Then the positive or potential vorticity anomalies of each feature, it's a little bit of weeds of meteorology there for you, basically begin to initiate binary interaction where these two pieces of energy merge, very much like Sandy in 2012 did off of New Jersey, and you get this powerful hybrid type storm that's not purely tropical, but it is not purely mid-latitude either. And the pressure could be down 930 millibars or lower. The warm seclusion where the air overtakes, it's just a crazy setup. But the result is a massive storm for our friends in Atlantic Canada. If you want to see this yourself, follow Philippe on Twitter. And here's his reference to where it ends here. And then he talks about Sandy, I think later on in the tweet, somewhere in here, I thought he did. But that's fine. Philippe Papin on Twitter, if you're not following him, you should. And you get this great information. All right, real quick, the Euro from the 0Z run last night. There is Fiona right there. This is 98L. All right, let's put this into motion. I'll just let it play. You see what happens with Fiona. Pinwheels up, captured by that trough, goes right into eastern Nova Scotia, and just, I don't want to say devastating impacts because we don't know for sure, but that is just the look of like, wow, all of that energy over such a huge area, really going to have some storm surge, battering waves, power outages. I mean, folks just need to be getting ready, and I'm sure they are. And here's 98L with its vorticity signature coming together on the European model, and we move this on out into time. It goes, we're going to go out to 5 days here, and that moves into the Northwest Caribbean where it does start to intensify. There we are at 120 hours right there in the Northwest Caribbean, passing near the Turks, slow down, Mark, near the Caymans. Turks are over here, and the southern area just south of Cuba. And then, of course, we know beyond that, it comes on up into Florida. Well, it's tropical tidbits getting hammered, as you can imagine. Maybe it's a good thing that I don't show that. 5 days is enough, but clearly it indicates that we need to be watching all in this area through here. Let me just use red real quick. Sorry, I'm on a different laptop, and my tools are not as familiar. I'm not in the office, so it makes things harder. But yes, all over the Gulf, you need to watch this. I think that goes without saying. The GFS, this is from the 6Z run, just to kind of show you how things evolve with 98L as well, out to 5 days. A different scenario from the GFS. The Euro has our system sitting here in 5 days. The GFS a few hundred miles to the south and west. We don't know yet. That's 5 days out. I guess there's still a chance that this goes low enough that it just crashes into Central America and never really does much. That is still on the table, but it is not likely. And so our friends all throughout this region in here, well, not really the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but you get the idea. We need to watch this in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico for sure. All right, now real quick, one way to understand modeling, let me come back to me briefly. A lot of people hammering tropical tidbits and other websites. They want to see the models. What does the GFS show? What does the Euro show? Well, let me help you a little bit. Instead of trying to look at deterministic runs, and that's what those are called, and ensembles and trying to just put it all together in your head, it makes you tired. It makes me tired. I mean, this is what I do for a living, and it's exhausting trying to decipher all of this. So many colors, the spaghetti plots. I mean, it is exhausting. So one easy way to just boil it all down and get an idea of what could be happening is to look at the consensus overall. And that is right here, the 12Z model track guidance. Let me just get rid of me so I can show you where I found this. It is over on the current storms tab at Tropical Tidbits. Current storms gives you all this information, intensity guidance, ensembles, etc. But the model track guidance, which is this one right here, global plus hurricane models, that will give you the one that shows the consensus. And this is generally, let's outline it in red, what the Hurricane Center will follow, and then they add their own human touch to it. And that's pretty tightly clustered, the consensus, okay? And so you see where that starts to end up. The GFS, which is the AVNI over here, is an outlier. It's on the western side of the envelope of the overall consensus. So when you read the discussion, and you should, from the National Hurricane Center on these systems, when they talk about their, somebody's trying to FaceTime me, when they talk about, hold on, let me just respond to their text real quick. I know this is awkward, but I got to let them know. It's actually Canadian TV. Call me in 5 minutes, please. There we go. It's recorded live. What can I do? But the consensus model, that guidance there, this is very helpful. So instead of just trying to figure it out yourself, this is a great tool. That was funny, that you can use. So try that, and then you don't have to wait for all these frames on the models. I know you're still going to do it, but it's a really good tool, and just wanted to make you aware of it. All right, real quick, I want to talk about our Patreon. People have been asking about it, and I try to not push it too hard, but this is how we fund what we do. This is why I'm going to be able to go to Canada. And we got a great support team, and you can be a part of it. You get access to the live cams, that interactive map that I showed, this right here, that is part of our Patreon on the HurricaneTrack Insider site. Simply go to patreon.com/HurricaneTrack or get the app and search HurricaneTrack in there. Really, really, really big time. We're on Discord, and it is amazing. I got into this with everybody over the last year. It took them a while to convince me because I didn't really understand it. Now I do. Wow, it's amazing. So that's it. We're on Patreon. You can support what we're doing and be a part of it. It's a wonderful community, and I invite you to jump in there as we track Fiona and 98. And, of course, we do off-season stuff, winter storms, severe weather, monsoon documentaries, podcast. It's a big project, and you can be a part of it there through Patreon. All right, so let me get this wrapped up and put it on YouTube for you, and then Matt will be here in about an hour. I got to do this interview with CTV, and then I should be in Nova Scotia tomorrow. You know what? Actually, now that I'm going to be staying in Philly tonight, I will do an evening update. I just thought about that. I'm tired. This stuff gets exhausting. But I love what I do. I appreciate your support more than you ever know. Just watching this on YouTube really, really is great to know that you're out there, and I hope you learn something every time I do this. All right, for HurricaneTrack, I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll do another update for you again this evening.